Namaste. In the 35th stanza of the 3rd chapter, Krishna says to do one's own duty, even unsuccessfully, is better than to do someone else's duty successfully. It is better to die while trying to accomplish one's own duty than to settle for another's duty, though safer and easier. That course is filled with danger and uncertainty. Let's try to think of a few examples here. During the Second World War, there was a big draft, and all young men had to go to the army and fight. Well, my question at that time, I was only 18, I wasn't old enough to be drafted then, but my question was, if they do try to draft me, would it be right to go? I didn't feel it was my duty to fight in a war. I had no ill will toward anybody. It seemed to me a general duty that was not specific in my case. It was not because of fear. I was perfectly happy to die any time, but I didn't want to die in what I considered not my cause. Now, that's a strange thought, isn't it? There are two definitions or ways of clarifying what is one's own duty. One is the general duty of every man. For example, when North Korea invaded South Korea, that was the system of communism coming into South Korea. My guru said, I myself put the thought in President Truman's mind to defend South Korea. And so we went in and defended South Korea. He said if they had not done so, if we had not done so, the communists would have come into Japan and up into the Aleutian Islands and down into America. He said this was a righteous cause. And somebody said to him, would we be getting bad karma to kill people then? He said, no, not bad karma, because you're fighting in a righteous cause. This would be quite contrary to what Mahatma Gandhi said. But this is a, generally speaking, right cause. Master said that the reason India won against England was that the English were gentlemen, whereas if they had been fighting Russia, they were not gentlemen, and they would have simply gone ahead and killed anybody who was in their way. And so there are many ramifications. When America went in to defend Vietnam, I felt it was not a righteous cause. I felt it was wrong. And there was a woman who came from the capital of Vietnam to receive Kriya from me in Calcutta. I was living in India at that time. And she said that there is great corruption in South Korea, in South Vietnam. And again, I felt this is not a righteous war. So generally speaking, it was not righteous. I don't think that the war in Iran is righteous. I think we don't have any business meddling in those affairs. And so, in my opinion, and I have to state this as an opinion, that is not our duty. But specifically, we have to think too. And when it came time for me to be drafted, I did everything I could, and fortunately successfully, not to be drafted because I did not feel that killing people was my dharma, saving people was my dharma, giving them spiritual bliss was my dharma, killing them, no. So you must feel that it would have been, as Krishna says here, it would have been a great misfortune and an obstacle on the path to do something that was not my dharma. So many people don't have any special dharma, and what their country does, if it's righteous, they should embrace. But I know that many American young men emigrated to Canada during the Vietnam War because they too did not feel it was righteous. It was not fear. It was the feeling of it being unrighteous, and I believe it was unrighteous. I believe also that America has gained a certain bad karma for some of these actions. Yet there is always a mixture of karmas. For example, what country in history has been invaded or attacked, beaten its enemy, and then stooped to help them up? Only America. So this is a wonderful thing. Another thing about the Americans is somebody said, in the war with Russia to get to the moon first. Somebody said that all the Americans need is get enough energy to send one dog to the moon, and the Americans would be so concerned for that dog, they would sacrifice money to get a system that would enable them to go to the moon and bring that dog back. Well, this is true. Americans are basically a kind people, and this is their good karma. But dropping the bomb on Hiroshima was not good karma. Going to war in an unrighteous cause is not good karma. And I think we have to understand that if we are going to act rightly, we must think what is right. Now, how can we tell? I've said this before, it is a good thing to repeat. That is good karma, which will bring you bliss. That is bad karma, which brings you misery. So test your heart. When you're considering, is this right, is that right? Test your heart and ask yourself, does this give me a feeling of affirmation? Does this feel right in my heart? If the emotions are not involved, if you're calm, then you can know whether an act is righteous or not righteous, because there is a certain confirmation or negation in your heart. Once I wrote a letter to somebody that person needed to hear, but I felt a nervousness in my heart, so I didn't send it. Sometimes it would have been right to send such a letter, sometimes it would have been wrong. It was a very good letter, and as a writer, I hated to have to give it up, but it was wrong. That person would not have understood what I was trying to say. Therefore, that's what would have made it wrong. And in many ways, we find that which is right action for some people is wrong action for others, and vice versa also. What is wrong for some will be right for others. So watch your own dharma, and that will be dharma for you, which will take you closer to bliss, and that will be all dharma, which will take you away from it. Try always to be kind to people. Try always to be forgiving of others. These are all good karma. Even in many people, when they become angry, their minds become confused. And in their anger, they think, I've got to do this, he deserves it, etc., etc. Feel in your heart, is it right? And for some people, it might be right. For others, it would not be right. So remember, your karma and your dharma are individual. So let us go on. Arjuna said, O Krishna, by what is one impelled, even against his will, to do wrong, as if he were being forced to do so? Krishna replied, it is desire, it is anger, both of which are impelled by Rajoguna. Know these to be mankind's greatest enemies. Now, desire leads to anger, because if the desire is frustrated, then we become angry. But anger and desires, you see, there are two aspects of Rajoguna. It's interesting that in everything in India, there seem to be, in ancient Indian teachings, there seem to be four castes, and so on. I'm not going to go into it in depth. But there are three qualities, Tamo, Raja, and Sattva. But Raja has two directions. There can be Sattva Raja or Rajatama. And that which takes you down is Rajatama. It takes a certain energy and activity and restless energy to raise your consciousness above the tamasic state. So Rajaguna can be good in that sense, but it must also be without attachment or desire for the fruits of action. Okay, but then there are the downward moving ones. Anger is a downward moving. It's like the waves on the ocean. I said that the gunas are three because there are three levels of a wave. Everything is a mixture of these three. The part of the wave that is the closest to the ocean you can call Sattva Guna, because it's very humble and close to the consciousness of infinity. Then the middle part of the wave can impel the wave upward or can impel the trough of the wave downward. And this is the Rajaguna, that Rajaguna, that energy which pushes up or pushes down. And then tamoguna is that which is farthest from the level of the ocean, so that at that crest of the wave, or at the depressed trough of the wave, there is no movement at first, and then it comes up or it comes down. So that is the tamoguna, the farthest away from the ocean, and that point of the wave where it loses steam in either direction, loses power, and then takes the opposite direction. Well, that middle part of the wave has the two aspects, that which raises and that which lowers. Anger is that which will lower. Desire and attachment are those things which will lower. And when you have desire, that is what pushes your energy upward or downward. It's desire that causes you to be born again in this world, because desire directs energy. Whenever you have a desire, many people think that they will satisfy their desires by going ahead and enjoying them, and then they'll be free of it. The trouble is, it's like that hydra monster, what was it? Hydra-headed monster, that every time one head was cut off, 10 more would grow out. So every time you satisfy a desire, you remember that in that way you found satisfaction, and so you get 10 more desires, and it just keeps growing and growing. You will never get out of desire by fulfilling the desire. You may need to fulfill it so that you can direct your energy then very positively. For example, if you desire an ice cream cone, a very trivial example, well, you may have a strong desire and you may have to fight that desire to suppress it, and in suppressing that one desire, you find that you don't have much energy left to go thinking of God and the desireless state of freedom in Him. So in that case, if your energy is already being strongly directed toward upliftment, then it would help you to just go ahead and have your ice cream cone and think of God. I remember when I came to my guru one time after meeting him and being accepted by him, I said to her, "Sir, please help me to overcome the taste for good food." And he just smiled. He said, "Don't worry about those little things. When ecstasy comes, everything goes." So consider those actions which actually prevent you from finding ecstasy, and concentrate on those which can, if they're just impeding you a little bit, forget about them. Just put all your mind on the positive action of seeking ecstasy. But there are certain desires especially which have a gripping effect upon the mind. The desire for money, for example, is a very limiting thing. Money itself is nothing. It doesn't have any power one way or another. But when you desire money, that pushes your energy, and that desire is a very strong one. And people looking at their gold and running it through their fingers and everything, they actually gloat over their success in finding gold and finding wealth. This is a great obstacle on the path. Don't be a miser and don't desire money. And if you desire money, the best way out of it is not to fulfill the desire for money so much as to use what money you get to help other people. The more you give, the less you will have of that desire. The same thing with drinking. It's a very blocking desire because it confuses the mind. And sex is another very strong desire, the second strongest after after self-preservation. And in the desire for sex especially, the mind is completely seized by that desire. It's extremely important not to give in, because giving in, you will just increase it and increase it. Whereas if you resist it and turn that desire to God, you will find your mind freer. So this is very important also. The desire for power. This is a gripping desire. The desire for fame. These are the strong desires in human beings. And we must resist them. We must not give in to them. Because the more we give in, the more stronger and stronger, the more multifarious those desires become. So that desire, which again, it confuses the mind, because if you don't get what you want, then you have anger. So Krishna is saying these two things, attachment first, but then desire, and anger, the frustration of that desire. All these things must be given to God. As fire is obscured by smoke, as a mirror is as a mirror is covered by dust, and as an embryo is enveloped by the womb, so is human understanding obscured by the three qualities. Now these three qualities, Rajo, Tamo, Rajo, and Sattva, these three qualities are described here. The smoke in front of the fire, it's good quality. Sattva guna is a good quality, that which uplifts. And when you have that uplifted energy going toward complete stillness in God, then a little puff of smoke and this fire is revealed. But if you have Rajaguna, you have to do a little work. And that is like rubbing away the rust on a metal mirror. But Tamoguna, he says, it's just like an embryo. It's covered by the womb, and you can only get out of it after a certain amount of time, normally 9 months. But in this case, who knows how many incarnations. Time is the issue. What we need then is to understand that we have to become triguna rahitam, go beyond all the three gunas. And this we can only accomplish when we get rid of the sense of I. I am lazy, I am active, I am good. All of these things have to go. You have to understand that He is your only reality. He is doing everything through you. And when you can get rid of the thought of you being the doer, then you achieve what you want. Therefore the Gita speaks of the Nishkam karma. And we'll talk more about this tomorrow. Joy to you.